Welcome to Astrology Tonight TV. I'm your host, Thomas Lyons. This week on Astrology Tonight TV, we'll take a look at astrology's effect on the modern Catholic Church and what's happening behind the walls of the Vatican. We've got a wonderful new astrological music video from European artist Ivan Narina called Aquarius, the Blizzard to Break the Ice, and it's a lot of fun. I really like it. Another of Robin Collier's cartoon androids this week warns us about how to deal with your Leo boss. Plus, celebrity birthdays, the amazing energy in the sky astrological maps from Christina Adolfsson. And we close the show with master astrologer Michael Earlywine sharing the ancient esoteric Tibetan story about how they believe astrology came into the ancient world. I'm Thomas Lyons for Astrology Tonight TV. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Jessie, one of Robin Collier's android slaves, researchers. Robin has asked me to explain how to deal with a Leo boss. First off, how can you tell if your boss is a Leo? They were born between July 23rd and August 22nd. Believe me, his assistant will know the date. Sometimes you can tell from their behavior. Ask Kermit the Frog. Miss Piggy is a Leo. Who manages, but doesn't do much, has the best office, and does lunch a lot? Your Leo boss. Always remember, Leo is not just the boss, he or she is your better. After all, they are the kings and queens of the zodiac. Leo is good at delegating. Her enemies call it shirking. The Leo boss must be respected. So, what are the ways to be one of Leo's star subjects? In personal life, Leo needs attention, even a little adoration. You can use flattery, but it must have a clear element of truth. Here are some clues. 1. Touch base, often. Leo wants to know what you are doing. If you are out of sight too long, Leo will come looking for you. 2. Be appreciative. For example, she gave you a gift to celebrate your anniversary with the company, or your birthday. If it's wearable, wear it, or display it in your office. Leo will be glad she hired you. You have great taste. 3. Show Leo respect. Title and rank are important to them. Maybe it's best to address them as Miss or Mr. 4. Let Leo be the star of the show. 5. Don't question her orders. Remember, her suggestions are really orders. Say, wow, great idea. I'll put that in the plan. 5. Volunteer for the grunt work. Why not? She will volunteer you if you don't. 6. Give Leo credit for your work. She'll somehow take it anyway. 7. Never go over Leo's head. If you must, be sure your resume is up to date. Deep inside, they don't want to think they have a boss. I hope this helps. If you need more help, email Robin at astrorobin.com.
The planet Uranus, the planet of revolutions and a radical new direction for the Vatican. Astrology behind the scenes in the Roman Catholic Church. As old as the Roman Catholic Church is, most people don't know that the modern church, centered in the city-state of the Vatican, is only 84 years old, and we have the astrology chart of its birth. Actually, there are at least 3 critical astrological charts involved with the birth of the modern church. You see, after the fall of the old Roman Empire, what eventually over centuries became modern Italy was ruled by a number of different forces and governments, most notably the Roman Catholic Church and its leadership, But when the powers that wished to unite Italy ran into military resistance in the mid-1800s from the supporters of the Catholic Church and the papacy, it led to a stalemate that lasted just over 58 years, or as we astrologers say, for 2 complete cycles of the weighty planet Saturn. The first critical astrological chart is for the event of the capture of Rome in the year 1870. Once that event occurred, and the astrological moment had been captured in space and time, the city of Rome was no longer under papal control. Used to getting their way throughout history, the leaders of the ancient church refused to acknowledge the new Italian state and resolutely held to this inflexible position until what astrologers call the second Saturn return of the event of the capture of the city of Rome by the unification movement. During its period of refusal to admit its own defeat and accept the change in the status quo and the reality that the new leaders of Italy were now in control of the Italian peninsula, Saturn is all about status, authority, hard, cold reality, and who is really in control. The Pope and the high leaders of the Church hunkered down behind the walls of the Vatican, waiting for the political tide to turn in their favor, an event that never occurred, and effectively became prisoners trapped, severely constricted in their movements, and physically confined inside the tiny Vatican compound for the next 58-plus years. Just over 58 years, by the way, is the time it takes the planet Saturn to make 2 complete revolutions around our Sun. Astrologers recognize that the completion of this nearly 6-decade-long double cycle of Saturnian responsibility and striving typically marked the end of the worldly climb up the ladder of power in the life of an individual or in an institution, as represented by the chart that marks its birth or its beginnings, and hopefully brings about a retirement of and release from that life's burdens, as it finally did for the leaders of the Catholic Church power structure and its unsuccessful political power holdout. As it happened from September 20th, 1870, when the city of Rome was captured by the forces of unification, until February 11th, 1929, the Catholic Church, refusing to recognize the new Kingdom of Italy, existed basically as prisoners of war until they finally cut a deal with the Italians and signed a document known as the Lateran Treaty in 1929, a deal that allowed the bishops of Rome to once again roam freely beyond their tiny bit of Vatican real estate that was once the seat of a military empire. Fascinatingly, the Church, always willing to utilize both astrology, at least behind the scenes, and the power of symbolism in the public face it shows to the world, the Roman Catholic Church chose February 11th, 2013, exactly 84 years to the very day that the leaders of the Catholic Church acquired their freedom with the Lateran Treaty, for Pope Benedict XVI to announce his radical and history-changing decision to retire from the papacy and allow a new pope to take his place, something that hasn't happened in more than 700 years. This was a radical decision that the 1 billion-plus Catholics worldwide never saw coming. Radical changes, dramatic new beginnings, total shifts of policy, and completely surprising turns of events, as some of you may know, are represented in astrology by the planet Uranus, a celestial body which takes, wait for it, 84 years to make one revolution around the sun. Yes, that's right, 84 years from the signing of the Lateran Treaty and the founding of the modern city-state of the Vatican in 1929, the former Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger became the former Bishop of Rome, the first former living pope for more than 700 years. It has now been revealed that Ratzinger made his decision to abdicate his papal throne way back in 2012, the year of his personal birth chart's once-in-84-year Uranus return of radical changes and new directions in one's life, but waited to make the official announcement until the 84-year Uranus return of the Church's liberation in the Lateran Treaty of 1929, being the astrological moment opening the door for a potentially new, radical, different direction for the Church itself and for the top leadership position. Now, hopefully the pontiff will fare better in retirement than the last pope to willingly abdicate his throne, that was Pope Celestine V, who, after resigning the role of Pope in the year 1294, was hunted down by agents of his successor, the less than pleasant Pope Boniface VIII, captured, imprisoned against his will, and cruelly treated, where he died in prison less than a year later, possibly having been executed by order of his replacement pope, according to rumors circulating from that day. However, using astrology to his best advantage, the modern pope, who abdicated, Benedict XVI, has made his exit in a year when no less than 6 major, extremely beneficial and positive Jupiter transits in the sky are acting on his personal astrological birth chart, so I imagine he'll be okay, at least for a while. At least he won't be hunted down and killed by the man who succeeds him as Pope in the Roman Catholic Church. In the coming weeks on Astrology Tonight TV, we'll take a look at the famous predictions of the end of the Catholic Church, some used to say the end of the world, and the suggestions that the next Pope might be the last. I'm Thomas Lyons, and you're watching Astrology Tonight TV, astrologytonighttv.com.
It's your birthday, and you're still stupid. You're just another day closer to the grave.
Death at your door, breathing's a chore, Maylocks is love.
It's your birthday, and hey, let's face it, you're dumb.
Dumb, yes you are dumb, incredibly dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb.
Happy birthday!
You are the blizzard to break the ice. Your revolutionary energy destroys the old like the storm to Bastille. Freedom, equality, and brotherhood. You want to overcome polarity like an underground space cowboy. You travel into cosmic spheres. Fire Society and groups in the 11th house share the experience to be aware. I want to find brothers and soul there to free me from many conditions, to free me from many conditions.
But there are also termas, or treasures, that are hidden in the mind, and they're appropriately called mind treasures. And they're not only Dharma teachings, that they're also astrology teachings. And I'll tell you a little bit about what the Tibetans have to say about where astrology came from, how astrology entered what they call our world system. And it's what they say is that astrology entered our world system, first of all, ages ago. One of the great bodhisattvas, a bodhisattva named Manjushri, appeared in China at a place in China called Mount Wutai Shan. Now, Mount Wutai Shan is a collection of 5 mountains arranged like the number 5 die when you play with dice. You know, they're a square made of 4 mountains with one taller mountain in the middle. And I've actually been to Mount Wutai Shan. I went there with my teacher, Khenpo Kato Rinpoche, Tibetan Rinpoche, that I've worked with for the last 30 years. And we went to the top of all 5 mountains, and we said prayers, and we did what are called puja, different kinds of practices, as a way of invoking the energy from that place. It was very powerful. So we went to the top of all 5 mountains and did this. But the reason we did that is that Mount Wutai Shan is where astrology came into the world. And of course, that interested me as an astrologer. And the Bodhisattva Manjushri appeared in the world as a young man, a youth. And from the top of his head opened, and out of the top of his head came, the Tibetans always use this number, but it means a lot, 84,000 astrological dharmas. And they're said to have sprung from the head of Manjushri in the Mount Wutai Shan area. And these teachings were shared with mankind, and mankind loved them, loved astrology. A lot of people still do. And Manjushri noticed that after the astrological teachings spread in the world, that people begin to ignore the Dharma some. They liked the astrology so much that the heck with the Dharma, right? They just didn't need to do that. They didn't think they did. Manjushri felt this was not good for humankind, that Dharma is... maybe I'll take another sidebar here and explain one other thing. That years ago, when I went to my Dharma teacher, who knows astrology too, who knows this Tibetan astrology, what he explained to me is what he would say, astrology is one of the limbs of the yoga, like a tree, but astrology is not the root. Dharma is the root. And astrology and many other psychic sciences, geomancy and stuff like that, are what are called relative truths. But the Dharma is what's called an absolute truth. Now, the whole idea of absolutes and relatives seems to appear in every religion and every philosophy. But here's what they mean by it as far as I can understand. Imagine knowledge to be a sphere, like the earth or whatever. A relative truth will get you from one place on the surface of the sphere to another. So we use astrology to get ourselves maybe out of where we are now to hopefully a better place. But it's moving on the surface of the sphere. But absolute truth, which is the Dharma teachings of the Buddha, is a movement from the surface of the sphere toward the center. And that every movement toward the center, from the center, we control the periphery. Anyway, that's how they explain the difference between relative and absolute truths. And we're talking about relative truths of astrology. So Manjushri was not happy that the absolute truth was being ignored. And so what he did was he withdrew back into his mind all of the astrology truths, and humankind was suddenly bereft. There was no astrology. They were not happy about it. And one of the great beings in Tibetan astrology, one of the great saints and masters, is often called the second Buddha, is Guru Rinpoche, also called Padmasambhava, or in Tibetan called Pema Jungni. He felt that, that humankind should be given another chance with all this astrology. So he went to Manjushri and he asked them, please, he pleaded to restore them. Couldn't he restore them because they were so useful for human beings as relative truths, as from getting from here to there and so forth. So Manjushri relented and he gave back all the 84,000 teachings, but there was a catch to it. Instead of just giving them all out, this time he hid them in the world, and he hid them in every conceivable place. And they were kind of like time release capsules. You couldn't have them all at once, but when the time was right, the right person would find the right teaching, and that teaching would come back into the world and be useful to humans. So, I mean, and again, I think I mentioned that the people that find these treasure finders are called tertans, and often they could find a treasure like a little scroll of sacred writing under a rock or in the middle of a rock, or very magical stories. But maybe the greater portion, at least the portion we're going to talk about here, of these teachings were not hidden in a rock or under a rock, but they were placed in the mind itself like time capsules. And that if you looked in the mind, if you got to know the mind, and you could find some of these, what are called termas, or these particular kind of called mind treasures. And that's what I want to talk about. As an astrologer, I feel I've done this. And
This is your host, Thomas Lyons, astrologer for Astrology Tonight TV. For more information about your own birth chart and what might be coming up for you in your future, you can go to our website, astrologytonighttv.com, and arrange for a personal, professional astrology reading for yourself or a loved one, or you can order your own personalized astrological chart and predictive transits that can be emailed directly to you anywhere on the earth. I'm Thomas Lyons, and you're watching Astrology Tonight TV, astrologytonighttv.com, right here on YouTube.